My father is a dick. When he got my mother pregnant, he wanted her to quit her job and just stay home to be a good little wife and mother. He is very well off due to a trust fund and he doesn't really need to work. My mother refused and divorced him. Because of a prenup she got very little and he moved back to Europe. His parents never knew about me and my mother had a good profession and I never really wanted for anything. My grandmother and grandfather, her mom and dad were awesome. And I got to spend my summers exploring the wilds of Western Canada with them. My father never paid the child support he should have. Like I said, it did really matter. My mom makes good money and she gave me a great life as a child. I'm getting married. I met the love of my life at university and we have been together for 8 years. He is a wonderful person and he really is my lobster. His family is from the same city as my father and they are a huge rambunctious bunch. Because of a lot of intermingled business and personal relationships, my parental grandparents found out about my impending wedding, and me I suppose. They have been in contact and want to come to Canada to meet me and my fiancé, who I guess is a grandson of an acquaintance of theirs. Small world. When they found out that my father had basically abandoned me to fend for myself in this world, this is honestly how they see it. They were pissed to say the least. It is very funny because we are decidedly upper middle class here. So long story short, they had their lawyer calculate the amount of child support my father should have paid with interest, and the cost of my post-secondary education. They then gave my this as a gift. What I didn't know was that it came out of my father's yearly draw on his trust fund. He is furious because it is obviously a sizable amount and it will very much affect his finances for at least the next 2 years. He may need to, get a job. He has been contacting me and telling me that his current wife and children will be negatively affected if I don't give him back this money. I don't really need it. And I guess I am entitled to it, and I am getting a trust fund now as well. But I really want to pay off any debt my mother may have and make sure that when she retires she can do whatever suits her fancy. I'm not giving it back. My half-siblings will not really be affected. They have trust funds set up already and their tuitions and fees and stuff are covered. My grandparents' family sets these up when a kid is born. One of the reasons my father is upset is because since he didn't bother to tell his parents about me, they did not set this up. They have since taken a good chunk of his trust fund and used it to set mine up. Realistically, the principal being separated 28 years ago would have left him in the exact same position. My mom was working on getting her PhD so she could help kids with a certain condition. That is what he wanted her to walk away from. My grandparents have sent me pictures of my family there. The coolest thing is that my grandfather looks like the granddad from The Parent Trap. My mom never remarried, but she has had a special friend since I was 5. He is amazing and taught me to swear in Colombian Spanish. I had lunch with my mom. Apparently she has no debt. Like at all. I guess she did literally write the book about the treatment for the kids she works with. She does okay for herself. I never really thought about it. We decided that what would be best is to set up a scholarship for people who want to go into her field of study. Since I am now a trustafarian, I can afford to do this. I am however going to book her and her friend a trip for after my wedding. And I am going to go pay off my car. My half-brother has posted about this. He has a slightly different viewpoint than myself. He is not in any way coming after myself or my mother. He is a young man who is disillusioned with his father. My daughter turns 11 in 6 weeks. She has been begging for a Nintendo Switch. Due to poor grades and overall bad attitude, we decided not to get a Switch. Money isn't the issue, it's her behavior. She acts very entitled and she's lying left and right. I just don't feel now is the right time for a Switch. The theft, on Easter, we, my husband, our kids, and myself, are at my husband's aunt and uncle's house. Aunt and uncle have 2 adult children, one of whom is mentally delayed, we'll call her cousin. She functions about a 10 years old level but is in her 40s. She lives in an assisted living apartment and has a job where she gets paid $5 a week. So she doesn't get many upscale things unless they are a gift. Well, cousin had an old Game Boy that she saved up to buy and was playing while we were there. She eventually set it down and moved on to playing a board game with us while the kids ran around playing. My kid decided to be an epic turd and took the Game Boy. She snuck it out of aunt and uncle's by asking if she could go to our car to look for a book she had brought, and stashed it in the glove box. She proceeded to hide the fact that she had the Game Boy for several days, even after being asked where she last saw it. Her opening to come clean when aunt and uncle called and asked if we had seen where cousin might have left it. Due to cousin's challenges, she was utterly distraught over her missing Game Boy. It's one of the few forms of entertainment she has, and she worked hard to have it. I'm disappointed about the thievery, but I'm even more upset over my kid's attitude about being caught. I only found out about it because her sisters ratted her out. Even then, she absolutely refused to tell me the truth and tried to pin it on her sisters. It wasn't until I sat there and thought about it that I knew she was lying to me. Once I told her I knew it had to be her because of XYZ did she finally confess. Her behavior only got worse from there. She refused to apologize when uncle and cousin came by to get the Game Boy, and had the balls to act like SHE was the one being wronged. I feel like I need to drop the hammer on her and send the message home that stealing is not okay. I think that purchasing the Switch, with my daughter's help from money she would earn by doing extra chores, and having her give it to cousin might be a good way to deliver that message while simultaneously giving cousin a nice upgrade to make amends. I mentioned this to a friend and they said this would be a move because birthday. I don't really think that matters, but the comment was enough to make me question myself. I do intend on giving my kiddo the opportunity to earn a Switch down the line, just not in such close proximity to this incident. Not sure how or when, since I have a SO to consult, but the opportunity will be provided in some way. Our therapist is of the opinion that my daughter largely has these issues because of the inconsistent co-parenting relationship her bio dad has with my husband and I. My husband and I are big on structure, boundaries, natural consequences, and following through. Her bio dad is the exact opposite of us. He and his family hardly ever tell her no to the things she wants, and give her a ridiculous amount of treats, toys, candy, etc., and this is causing her to be confused, to struggle with our expectations, and express herself negatively. I assure you, we have been addressing these behaviors for quite some time. Recently, my cousin and cousin-in-law have been thinking about relocating to our state because of recent job opportunities, and we've hosted them in the past when they visited. The first time they stayed with us, before my son was born, my nephew seemed to develop a strong attachment to my wife and always wanted to be near her. He drew a picture of a heart and picked some flowers from our yard and gave them to her before they left, saying he loved her. My wife thought this was sweet and gently handled his crush by telling him she would always love him as his aunt, but she was sure he would find another girl to fill his heart soon. He told her no, she was his girlfriend. This weekend, they were staying with us again and my nephew again wanted to be near my wife every chance he got. His mom and dad noticed and told him that because my wife now had to care for our son, she couldn't pay attention to him as much as before. He got upset telling us that she was his girlfriend and had a meltdown, which caused my son to start crying. When my wife got up to take our son to another room to calm him down, my nephew got up to follow and his dad had to forcibly restrain him from following them. I stood up to block the hallway into the separate room just in case he got away from his dad. Once they calmed him down, they apologized for his behavior and said they would keep better tabs on him. Here's the part where I may be the asshole. I told my cousins I didn't feel comfortable with my nephew being so possessive of my wife, and I know for sure she didn't. Especially since he seemed to be so jealous of our son. I told them I couldn't allow their son in our home until he learned to control himself and understand that my wife was not his girlfriend. I apologized but asked them to get a hotel room for the rest of their stay and not to visit us again unless they left my nephew behind with people they could trust and knew would care for him, while they searched for jobs in our state. They didn't say anything but looked saddened and went to the guest room with their son to pack up their bags. I guess they must have told my extended family what happened because my paternal grandmother called me this afternoon, telling me that I should have been more understanding and that I was wrong to ask them to leave. Am I the asshole? Technically, my cousin is my second cousin. My dad is an only child, so the cousin I refer to in my post is the son of my own dad's first cousin. My paternal grandmother and his paternal grandfather were siblings. I'm not sure if this is correct, but his autistic son would technically be my third cousin. The reason I refer to him as my nephew is because he's the generation after mine in our family tree, and it's less of a mouthful to refer to him as cousin X removed. A lot of people have posted that it's not correct to refer to him as my nephew, but to be frank, I don't care. And my family's never followed this traditional genealogy nomenclature. Without being specific, in the western state I was born and grew up in, it's not uncommon to refer to even close, unrelated adults as uncles or aunts. I call him my nephew because my cousin and I were close, and I still hope to have a close relationship with him if at all possible. Though I don't know how after this situation. Some have asked if I was jealous of my nephew calling my wife his GF. The first time, I thought it was amusing and was surprised that he had any romantic notions towards anyone, let alone my wife. Remember, in my mind he's my nephew, and I never thought of him as anything other than a large kid because of his developmental delays and normal, for him, childlike behavior. Regarding the situation that happened this weekend, I was only concerned for my wife and son's safety. I didn't know how he would react and followed my cousin's lead, but wasn't about to let him get near my wife and son once they left the room. I don't know what was said to my paternal grandmother, but I don't want to react in anger and want to talk to my cousin once we've both had time to process what happened and calmed down. My partner and I have been in a relationship for 5 years, living together for 4. Recently my partner came home having had a short meeting with a financial advisor, and was really eager to talk about our financial future, WRT savings goals, life plans, timelines for saving up a deposit for a house, etc. This is a conversation I've been trying to have for years with him, so you'd think great, right? I should be really happy we're finally there. But I'm not. Talking about us going for a meeting with a financial advisor and starting to build towards our future together has given me really cold feet about the relationship. I think part of it is why now? I've been trying to talk to him about this for a really long time. With renewed efforts at the start of this year when I landed my first full-time salaried position and was working out my budget / personal savings goals. Just 4 months ago he wouldn't have a conversation about it. But now that the financial advisor has said the same things, it's obviously something we should be doing and I should just jump on board with? I think if the advice was particularly different to what I'm already planning, I'd be less annoyed. But the advice is the same. There's a certain type of savings account you can start in the UK specifically for saving up for a house. And I've been talking about planning to open one once I'm full-time employed for literally 3 years. And he brought it up like this new, novel idea I'd never heard of. It makes me wonder if he's ever listened to anything I've ever said. He's always been more frightened of commitment / taking the next step. And I've driven that for the majority of our relationship. Become official / exclusive? I pushed for it. Move in together? I pushed for it. Start a joint account for household costs? Me move into a bigger place and buy our own furniture? My call. And every step of the way he's against it, and I have to convince him why it's the right decision. I've tried to have this financial future talk for a long time, and also the talk about mapping out what our future plans are together. But he's never wanted to have it. I guess I feel a lot of resentment that he's finally ready to talk about this because someone else has told him it's a good idea. It also brings up a lot of worries I've had about the future that might have been sitting under the surface for a while. Like the marriage and kids talk, I've always been clear about what I want, and he's always vaguely agreed with me. But trying to talk to him about time scales for it is like pulling teeth and always turns into an argument. It's not like I'm saying you have to propose now or I'm leaving or anything. It's literally just stuff like, ideally I'd like to be thinking about engagement and buying a house by 28, and married looking to have kids by 30. So he's literally got like half a decade. But we can't have that conversation because he shuts down / gets annoyed / feels pressured. And I have no idea what he wants from the future because he won't tell me. There's a lot of resentment in this post, and I feel the need to clarify that I love him. He's my best friend and our day-to-day life is a dream. But I always feel like I'm dragging him into a future he doesn't want. And that he doesn't really trust / listen to me as an equal partner, until someone else tells him the same things I've been trying to say. I don't want that to be my future. I want someone who has these conversations with me and is excited about taking the next step. This feels like it has been one of the biggest underlying issues in our relationship that we've never been able to address. He doesn't ever really seem to listen to / consider me and often prioritizes his relationships with others. It's like he's expecting that I'll always just be there until he's ready, and that's not a very nice feeling to have. I'm not really sure where to go from here. I guess my big question is, how do I move past this resentment into a productive conversation about goals / expectations? I would like to be excited that he's finally ready to take this step together, but I just feel annoyed and uncertain. I would also like to address the issues of not feeling like a priority once and for all, since previous attempts haven't been successful. So I suppose my other question is, how do I make our communication better so that we can actually talk about these things and come up with a plan to fix them?